All right, Steeler fans, welcome to the Mailbag Segment every Wednesday on the Let's Ride podcast. This is what we do. In case you don't know, once your question answered on Tuesday morning, I put out the tweet. You can find me on Twitter at jhartman, HARTMAN_PIT. After I put out the tweet, all you have to do is respond to the tweet. You don't have to follow me or anything like that. You don't have to subscribe anywhere. You just have to find it. You put in the question and I answer it on the Wednesday show. All right, let's get right to it. Believers does the Ride or Die Crew poll of the week. He said, rate the Steelers free agency so far, A, B, C, or D. I chose B. 63% agreed with me. 38% gave it an A. I think that it's a B, but it could move to an A quickly if they were to make a few more moves. We'll see. Mark Bergen of the Believe in Steelers podcast said, in honor of March Madness, which player on the current Steelers roster is the best basketball player? I think it's between one of two players. And when I say this, I am let's do a third. I'm looking for pure athletes. So when I think about basketball, they have to have the endurance. They have to have the ability to get up and down the court. They have to have the athleticism, the hand-eye coordination. So I have two defenders and one offensive player I think would be really, really great basketball players. On offense, I'm going George Pickens. He's got the size, speed, vertical. He's got the hand-eye coordination. He's got everything you want. I don't know if he could shoot at all, but he's got everything you want. On defense, I actually think TJ Watt would be a hell of a post player. I think you give him like that power forward type role, give him the ball in the post, let him do his thing. He'll be able to get you some buckets underneath. The other defender, though, I'm going to go with Minkah Fitzpatrick. He's got the endurance. He's got the athleticism. He's got the hops. I think he's left-handed, which is actually weird. But those are the three that come to mind in honor of March Madness. I think would be the best basketball players. I'm sure I'm missing someone that someone's going to say, Jeff, this guy actually played basketball in college. I'm sorry. This is off the top of my head. All right. Jeff Coons, our buddy up north. He said, hi, Jeff. Do you enjoy the draft broadcast? Do you watch most or all of it? Do you watch alone or with others? All right. So typically we as a staff will watch the first round together. And we used to do that typically on Zoom. We're contemplating doing a draft viewing party that it would include anyone and doing it on YouTube and live streaming it. In which case you can see our reactions to picks. We can talk about things. I typically follow on Twitter because Twitter is way far ahead than anything on TV. So you have the people like Brian Davis and Andrew Wilbar, like, don't tell me. I don't want to know. I want to watch it on TV. I don't care about TV. I care about finding out the information as quickly as possible because when you have to write the article, when you have to get the podcast ready, having an extra minute pays off big time. So I do enjoy the draft broadcast. I do tend to follow on my phone and follow on Twitter/X. All right. King Tibbs says, Jeff, my man, you rock. Keep up the good work. I was wondering how come we haven't had an introductory press conference for Justin Fields? No videos of his reaction and thoughts that I figured we'd get. So what gives? I want to meet our future franchise quarterback. Fingers crossed. So that's a great question. It's something that has not been I've recognized it. I just haven't brought it up and I didn't ask. Justin Fields just recently, as of Tuesday, on the Steelers official Twitter account, he was pictured in some fresh Steelers gear. And so that was the first time we'd seen him in a black and gold anything. I would think that they would have him in at some point for a press conference. I don't know what they're waiting for. I don't know what the hang up could be. It's not like they have to wait for him to come in and sign a contract. He was traded. So he's officially a member of the roster right now. He's on the roster. Just weird. Maybe he didn't want one. I don't know. Hell, Kenny Pickett had a press conference when he got traded to Philadelphia. So we'll see. Maybe it'll still happen. Maybe they're just waiting for something to, maybe they're waiting for the NFL draft season to die down. And when the pro days are over and Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan and everyone else can be there for it, who knows? I don't. Let's go to LBJ. He said, what makes us good at drafting wide receivers in the later rounds? And do we still have that scouting structure in place? It's really interesting that you say that because I think that that's kind of become a false narrative. Who was the last wide receiver the Steelers drafted who it was not named Antonio Brown, who was a good wide receiver in the later rounds? I'm trying to think of the good receivers they've had recently and when they were drafted. Like Martavis Bryant going to put him in that category. I remember his spark score was incredible. I think he was a 4th-round draft pick. I think Marcus Wheaton was a 3rd-round draft pick. Sammy Coates was a 2nd-round draft pick. Limas Swede was a 2nd-round draft pick. I'm literally just rattling receivers off of my brain. Emmanuel Sanders, I believe, was a 3rd-round draft pick. Mike Wallace was, I think, a 2nd-round draft pick or a 3rd-round draft pick. I don't think the Steelers have had the success that people think they have had in the later rounds. You're including the 2nd round or day 2. Well, I wouldn't call that later rounds. I call day 3 the later rounds. They've been very good at drafting wide receivers on those day 2. That's round 2, round 3. I think that they still have the structure in place, the scouting in place. It's just a matter of they have to make it pan out, and they haven't had that recently. I mean, James Washington is the most recent example of a pretty high drafted player, 2nd-round pick out of Oklahoma State, and it just didn't work out. Did not work out. All right, let's go to Ethan McNew. Would the Steelers be interested in a reunion with Cam Sutton? His charges got lowered to a misdemeanor. I don't know. I mean, I know he got released from Detroit, but I feel like personally the Steelers are working hard to get rid of headaches and not bring any in. And I know Cam Sutton is a good guy, probably, and Mike Tomlin probably has a good relationship with him, but that did happen, whatever it was that had him as a fugitive of the law for almost a month. So I feel like that would be the antithesis of what we've seen so far this offseason. Eric asks, who, in your opinion, would make the best barbecue on the current Steelers roster? A couple years ago, this is back in like 2019. I remember Cam Hayward. He had like a grill off at his house, and Steelers social media was there. And they actually, I don't know if it was them or just their own social media accounts. They were kind of showing it. And I think Stephon Tuitt was still on the team at the time. TJ Watt was there, and it was Stephon Tuitt was that actually won it. But I'd probably go with, I'd say Hassenauer when he was with the team too. He was a really good cook, JC Hassenauer, but he's not with the team anymore. I'll go with Cam. I'll assume that a big guy's going to have a good handle on the barbecue. I would hope so, at least. These guys got to use charcoal. You have to know what you're doing. You can't use gas grills and expect to have the food taste good. It just doesn't work that way. All right, let's go. James, he said, incredibly late with my question this week, but here it goes. Jeff, would you be able to provide a DEFCON level for the team and organization as a whole after the first wave of free agency and going into the draft? Would love to get another after the draft as well. Well, you're in luck, James. If you listen to the first half, you heard me say I'm going to do just that before the draft and then also after the draft. Nat Redmonds asks, if everything pans out as it should, because I think we have a very good team, do you think the Steelers are a top 2 in the division and win a playoff game? I think they do both. Have a great day. Go Steelers. Let's ride. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate the question. I think that if they get a couple more pieces together, they get that center, maybe have another slam dunk draft like they did last year, then I think that, I think they are putting together a really good roster. People want to bicker about like the wide receiver depth chart right now. I'm not going to worry about that till after the draft. If there's a position that has been proven that people can come in and start right away, it's wide receiver. So pump the brakes on that a little bit. I agree with you. I think they could be the second best team for sure. All right. Corey Eckenroth says, go Buccos. That is all. Hashtag Ride or Die Crew. Hashtag Pirates. Hashtag is this finally the year, Jeff? And then hashtag Go Steelers. The Pirates are 5-0. Now they play tonight, Wednesday night in Washington. And they're going to lose eventually. I know that. I keep joking on Twitter that 162-0, like that's their big thing. They look good. And when you think about the young arms that are still going to come up, like Paul Skeens, it's incredible. Like there is potential there. I hate that word. The dreaded P word, but it's there with those Pirates. All right, let's go to RJ McCollum. Said the Monday morning conversations have been great. I'd love to hear you and Big G one of these days. Or if you need an SCN, he said, hit me up. All right, RJ, thank you. He said, how do football players stay cool during the game? They stand near the fans. But I'm Ching. Very good. Thank you, RJ. And I'm glad you like the Monday morning conversations. Go and check those out. You can hear my conversation with Paye Saunders, who covers the Bears for Fans First Sports Network. It's a great conversation. They always are great conversations. All right, let's go to Joshua Petrick. With our exceptionally talented running back room and the offensive coordinator change, any chance we see more 2 running back formations, especially since Cordero can motion to wide receiver? I think you could. I think you will. I think the Steelers have this flexibility now. Cordero Patterson is different. He's not a Calvin Austin, where when he goes on the field, you're thinking, oh, there goes a red flag. Here comes the gadget. Like, that's not him. He can run the ball between the tackles. He can also catch the ball. He's a unique weapon. I call him the ultimate Swiss Army knife. So I'm excited to see what they have up their sleeves. I can't give you any specifics because I don't know, but we'll see. Doc M or Southside Doc says, describe how quarterback play affects winning. If there's a relationship, how would league average or above average play contribute to the expected win total? This is where you're getting into some gray matter here, Doc, because I'm thinking as I read this would be a great question for Dave Schofield, Stat Geek. But then you would have the question of, well, how do you dictate quarterback play being a positive or a negative? So you said, how would league average or above average play contribute? Well, what is the average? What are the metrics that we're looking for? Are you looking at passer rating, quarterback rating, completion percentage, touchdown to interception ratio? That's where we have to delineate there what we are considering above average, average, and below average quarterback play. Then once we have that done, then you can take a hard look at where that correlation is between quarterback play and winning. Above average, what are the win totals, expected win totals, and same with average and below average. So, Doc, when you listen to this, hit me up on Twitter, hit Dave up on Twitter, probably. It'd probably be a smarter bet. I'm not a numbers guy, and maybe we can figure something out. We might be on to something here. Doc, thank you. Let's go to Stephen Moore. He said, love the show, Jeff. I see a lot of wide receiver picks for the first round of the draft. Maybe it's because I'm old, but if your offensive line is doing its job, you can make most receivers look like Jerry Rice. So I'm thinking center or tackle. What are your thoughts? I think the Steelers are going offensive line in round 1, barring something crazy happening, which you'll hear these draft podcasts, not necessarily with Fans First or here on Steel Curtain Network. You hear these podcasts say like, well, if all the quality tackles and all the quality centers are gone, they're going to have to go wide receiver. And I'm thinking, okay, the Steelers picked 20th. So that means there's 19 picks before they make their selection, unless they trade up like they did last year. Are you telling me that there's all the quarterbacks that are supposed to get picked in the top 10? You have all the tackles gone, all the centers gone. It's just not going to happen. They always say these grandiose, these unbelievably elaborate statements and make fans think, oh, he's not going to be there. He's not going to be there. When you literally look at the numbers and how many players are selected and how many quarterbacks are going to go, and you say like there's going to be someone available on the offensive line. It might be Amarius Mims out of Georgia, offensive tackle, or it might be one of the centers that they really, really like. Someone is going to be available on the offensive line when the Steelers pick at 20. The only way they don't do it is if there's no one there that they don't like. Keep that in mind. Steeler fan 69, who always chimes in with some humor, he says, told my wife one of our neighbors has died. She said, who, Ray? I said, it was way too early to celebrate. The next one. What do you call two guys from Mexico playing basketball? Juan on Juan. My favorite, the last one. My kids laughed hysterically at this, by the way. I read these to them every single week. I replaced my rooster with a duck. Now I wake up at the quack of dawn. But Ching, very good. Thank you to everyone that contributes. All right, let's go to Brandon Diaz. He has several questions. He said, Boyd or a high drafted wide receiver? I will go the high drafted wide receiver because I think Tyler Boyd's asking too much. He values himself greater than what teams, obviously all 32 teams do. So go with a high drafted wide receiver. Next one. Who's the most loved and most hated former Steeler who now plays for a different team? I will say that the most loved, trying to think about this quickly, I would say I don't think there's a lot of hatred to Juju Smith-Schuster. I don't think the way that he left really burned any bridges or anything. He's with New England last year. I don't think people hate Juju. I don't think they love him necessarily, but they don't hate him. The most hated former Steeler, I can tell you who I disdain the most, and that is not because I didn't like him in Pittsburgh, but man, when he left, I wish he was still here, is Mike Hilton. Gosh, I wish Mike Hilton was still on the Steelers. I loved watching that guy play. Watching him with the Bengals and taunting the Steelers fans just really gets under my skin. All right, let's go to the next question. What position and player would make you react the way you did when Kenny was drafted? I don't know. It's too early for that. I'll let you know closer to the draft. Next, you said it'll be a quarterback competition. What percentage do you give Fields to start week one? I would not give him a high percentage. I would probably say about 25% right now, but that can change. If Russell Wilson doesn't have a good camp, doesn't have a decent preseason, Justin Fields looks the part, looks like he's really running things well. Maybe they ease him into it, have a couple systems in place, formations and things like that in place that Arthur Smith uses him, and they say, wow, we could probably build off of this, build off of this. I'm going to say 25%. All right, Brandon Diaz continues. How's the state of Maryland and the city of Baltimore doing? Any updates? I got to be honest. It's a good question. It's fair. I couldn't live in that realm too long. It sounds awful, but I had to turn it off. There were a lot of crazy thoughts on social media about it. There were a lot of speculative things. I know that the bridge is being removed from the water right now, and I think that's very important right now to get that harbor at least open again. It's going to be a 4 or 5 year process until they rebuild that bridge. So traffic systems are going to be all askew and messed up. But yeah, I just couldn't live there too long. When it comes to certain things, I see it, I live it, I feel it, and then I got to remove it. I got to remove myself from it. And that's because I can't let it dictate my life. And that sounds awful, but I hope you all understand. Last question here. Do you do a live stream on draft night where we can watch along? We are in the talks of doing that. So we'll have some information for you all to be able to watch the draft with us. And it should be a lot of fun. And then we'll obviously still be doing our live stream shows after a pick is made. So keep your eye out for that. Let's go to JBI Deeks. Can you explore the immediate impact of adding a starting center versus tackle via draft? Which option will have the greatest impact on the team this season? An issue with Mims is we would have to move Jones from right tackle to left mid-season, so likely riding with Moore for another year. All right, so again, just like with Doc, we can't make these, these really thought-provoking questions without having any type of clarification to what you were talking about. The immediate impact of adding a starter versus a tackle. That's going to be so difficult to try and decipher because what is the impact? What does that look like? Are they just wins? Is it rushing amounts? Is it yards per carry? Is it sacks surrendered? There's so many metrics and so many statistics and so many different avenues that we could go down. It just makes it really confusing. Now, with Mims, you would have to assume that, yeah, Dan Moore's probably going to get the start at left tackle to start the year. That's just the way it is. I got to be honest with you, folks. I don't know if there's a tackle in this class that the Steelers could pick that is going to come in on day one and be able to just say, all right, Broderick, bump over to left. I got the right side. Don't worry about it. They're going to ease them into it. You may hate Broderick Jones, and that's fine. Your prerogative. But he's going to be there in 2024. Last question here from DJ Spicer. With Arthur Smith's history as a tight ends coach, do you believe we are going to see a resurgence of tight end play after a poor showing last year? My goodness, I hope so. I want to see Darnell Washington used as a semi-passing threat. Like, really, please, for the love of all things holy, can we get the guy a couple targets? Pat Freiermuth, we feel like, ever since he had Ben Roethlisberger, his play has been very sporadic, up and down, injured last year. Keep him healthy. Connor Hayward, all of them. Hot Rod, even if you want. I am hoping and excited to see what they can do at the tight end position. All right, some great questions. If you had those clarifying things that I mentioned, like with Doc and the other question I just talked about, feel free to hit me up on Twitter. Include Dave Schofield. He's at STLR Superfan Dad. We'll try and figure out an answer for you. But my gosh, a lot of these times with the mailbag segment, I'm reading these questions for the first time. You guys are asking me to dig into Pro Football Reference. Come on now. I need some time for some of these questions. Give me a break. All right. With that being said, that's it. I'll be back on Friday. You know what that looks like? We'll have Jeremy Jerome Betts in the second half talking, Steelers, NFL draft, all bets are off segment. So be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, check out SteelCurtainNetwork.com and all of our podcasts, wherever you get your podcast by searching Steelers or Steel Curtain Network. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. In the meantime, we finished out. Be safe, be kind, and God bless. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you on Friday. Go Steelers.